So today I want to show you all the things there is about Credit Sesame, which is an online service that actually shows you your credit score. I'm going to show you how easy it is to actually sign up for the service, as well as a lot of the benefits that they give you. Now, I've actually partnered up with Credit Sesame to provide this video for you guys because I know how important it is to actually know your credit score. It actually has a huge impact on how much you're going to be paying in interest for all the different types of loans out there, whether it's a car loan, credit cards, a house, or even student loans. So this is a really important one to pay attention to because knowing your credit score can actually save you a ton of money. With Credit Sesame, you get your credit score updated every single month entirely for free. You do not even have to have a debit card or credit card on file, which is a huge plus for me because I like to make sure that I'm not paying for extra things that I don't absolutely have to. And the other really nice thing about this is they get their information completely sourced from TransUnion, which is one of the 3 credit bureaus that actually provides your credit score. So this is not some makeshift number. So this is actually a credit score that one of the credit unions actually has for you. So what this is going to actually do is not only show you your credit score, which I'm going to show you guys here on the computer, but also as well all the different information that might be affecting your credit score. And that's where Credit Sesame really takes off. It really shows you how your score is actually impacted and what you could potentially do about it to increase that score, because the higher your score, the lower the interest rate you're going to potentially be paying, which is a really cool thing. You don't want to have a low score because you're going to be paying a lot more money in interest. So what we're going to do first is actually show you how to sign up for Credit Sesame, which if you've never done it already, I'm going to have a link in the show notes down below that you can go ahead and click on. If you're on desktop, you can follow along at the same time, or if you're on mobile, you can do this after the video is done. But you're going to see how simple and easy it is to actually go through and sign up. And then afterwards, I'm going to show you and take you around through Credit Sesame to show you all the benefits that they have to offer for you. So make sure you go ahead and click on that link down below, and let's go ahead and sign up for Credit Sesame. All right, so once you go ahead and click on the link in the show notes down below, this is going to be the page that it takes you to on your desktop. It's going to ask you to go ahead and sign up to get your free credit score and saving advice. So the first thing it's going to ask you is actually your email address. So just go ahead and plug in the email address that you actually want to have on file. And once you plug all that information in, then what you're going to go ahead and do is you're going to hit Get Started. So once you click on that, it's going to take you to this very next page. It's going to ask for your first and last name. Make sure you put all your legal first name and your legal last name properly, as it asks you right there, because it's going to help establish your credit history. So you want to be making sure you go through that process correctly. So once we go ahead and do that, we're going to, of course, click on the Next button. Now it's going to ask you, where do you currently live? So you want to make sure you are putting your current address in. Now it is going to ask you, once you plug in that information, if you've lived in that address for more than 6 months, make sure you enter that correctly. Next up, it's going to ask you when you were born. So make sure you put in your correct date of birth and go ahead and click Next. Now it's going to ask you for your social security number. Now it's only going to ask you for the last 4 to get you started on here, but make sure that you are putting in your correct information. This is going to be something that they actually need to be able to get a hold of your credit score. So don't be afraid to put in the last 4. Now the company is actually making sure that they do follow the PCI compliance, so that way your information is actually protected. Once you get all that plugged in, then it's going to ask for your phone number. Now you can go ahead and plug in that information and then go on to the next step, which is to get my data. Now it's going to ask you a couple different questions here to verify your identity. They want to make sure that you are the right person that plugged in all the information. So all of these questions should rely based off of the things that you plugged in with your social security information. Some of those could be answers as none of the above, so just make sure you follow along with those. And then afterwards, it's just verifying everything, closing it off, and then right here, it's going to ask you to go ahead and create a password. So very simple. Make sure you're not using the same password that you're using for everything else. Be something a little bit more creative and difficult for anybody to potentially hack. And then if you wanted to hit Remember Me on this device, if it is the device you are, accustomed to using all the time. Now from here, this right here is how quickly it was to be able to load up and get started with Credit Sesame. Now we're going to actually go ahead and hop in and show you all the information when it comes to actually going through a profile on another account. Also too, have no fear, if you are not a big fan of using a web browser, you can actually go ahead and do all this directly on your phone. Credit Sesame actually has an app that you can download directly to be able to sign up and actually get all the same great information that I'm going to be showing you here today directly on your phone. All right, so now that we've signed up officially for Credit Sesame, I went ahead and logged into another account. Now here I have some information, of course, blocked off for that person's security, but this is what Credit Sesame is going to look like for you. At first, it might look like a whole bunch of information that might not seem useful for you, but as I mentioned, this has a lot of great information that can really help you when it comes to creating a good good credit score so you can get some really good interest rates. Now, first and foremost, the biggest and most important thing is your actual credit score. So as you can see here on this credit report, we're going to actually have a total of 711 points out of 850, which obviously, as you can see down here at the bottom, shows you that it is a good score. Now, of course, the higher we can get up, the better the score is going to be. So the nice thing is they actually gave you some different potential ideas of how you can increase your score. But there's a few other pieces of information that I want to show you that can actually go a really long way when utilizing Credit Sesame. Now, here's one other really important thing I want to note when it comes to seeing your credit score. As I mentioned earlier, this is from one credit bureau, which means that there are those other two credit bureaus that might actually have different scores for you. Ideally, they should be close to that same number, but they can be a little bit different. So keep that in mind because all the different credit bureaus do gather different information from you. So make sure that you have a good understanding of where you are standing based off of a lot of pieces of information that we're going to be going over here. Now, the thing that I like to look at the most when it comes to this is going to, under My Finances, going to My Credit. This is going to be where I personally get a bulk of the information. Now, if you don't know, your credit score is actually built up in a couple of different ways. Now, first and foremost is what you're going to see here is in the first tab is called payment history. As you can see here, they actually indicate for you that this is 35% of your actual score. So this has a huge impact based off of what's going on here and how your score is actually calculated. Now, there's no one-to-one ratio on figuring out what is causing your score to be higher or lower than other people, but this is generally going to be a good idea of how to fix it, right? So if we go onto this person's account, let's go ahead and scroll down just a tiny bit. We're going to see here in their payment history that they actually have some negative marks. And for this account, there's actually 2 items in collections. Now, whether you maybe did your free credit report or if you maybe just didn't pay attention, you might not have known that there are actual credit collections on your account. And this can be a huge negative, as you can see here, being that we're in that yellow bar between the very poor and the excellent gauge. So we want to pay attention to what can we actually do to increase to the excellent side. Now, of course, being that there are collections, we can go ahead and try to negotiate with these collection agencies. Now, the nice thing is we have the information of what these companies are called, so we can actually go ahead and try to reach out to them. Again, you wouldn't know this if you don't actually check your credit scores or your reports. So this gives us a lot of great information. So knowing that we know this information now, we can go ahead and try to negotiate or even lower these amounts that we have on the account or pay them off and get them out of the actual account, which will help increase your overall score because then your payment history is going to go closer to the excellent side, which is a huge impact on your overall score. Hey, real quick, if you're getting some value out of this content so far here today, do me a solid and go ahead and hit that like button down below. And then let's go ahead and jump back into the video. Now, next up on this, if you see here, is the next tab, which is the credit usage. Now, credit usage, in case you don't know, it takes up about 30% of your actual score. So what they really entice you to do is to try to keep your actual balances 30% or less of your actual credit. So break this down super easy. If you have $10,000 on a card, you want to use no more than $3,000 on that account, because anything above that is showing that you're using a lot more credit than you should probably be doing to keep yourself balanced. So everything you can do to try to lower your overall credit usage to 30% or less is going to be ideal. There's 2 easy ways to do this: either paying down your debt if you can, or increasing your credit limit, but knowing not to add more debt to your actual cards. So one of those 2 options is going to help increase your credit score, because now you're going to have that percentage of usage go down, whether again paying off the debt or increasing your credit limit. So from this account over here, we can see that this person is actually in the excellent category because they have $3,800 of credit limit, but are using 0. And it's showing these creditors that you have access to this credit, but are not being wasteful and unintentional with how you're using it. So this is going to look really good on someone. As you can see here, they have an A, which is in that excellent category. So it is really having a positive impact on their credit score, even though their payment history has somewhat of a negative effect on their credit score as of right now. Now, next up on this here is going to be the credit age. Now, this one, you're going to be a little limited on how effective you can be with this, but first and foremost, it's going to look at how old is your oldest account. As you can see here on this one is about 12 years old. Their newest account is about a year and 3 months, and then their average is about 6 years and 7 months. So the thing about this one is we want to make sure that we're not over opening too many accounts, and maybe not doing it where we cancel out old cards because it's showing that we've had that credit available and are using it wisely because we've had it for so long. And then the age of the credit actually takes up about 15% of your overall score. So again, not a lot you can have an impact with on this, but just making sure that one, you're not opening up too many in such a short amount of time, because that can actually hurt you a little bit, but making sure that you have longevity with the credit cards or the credits that you do have available. Now, next up on this list is going to be the account mix. Now, this one is going to be a little bit different. It takes up about 10% of your overall score, and this is going to be talking about how many different types of loans do you have? Do you only have credit cards? Do you only have student loans, cars? Do you have a mixture of all these different types of debts that can actually have an impact on your score? This account only has one credit card and then one home loan on file, so it actually hurts it just a little bit. Of course, maybe if they had a second or maybe even a third credit card, of course, with that utilization down like we talked about earlier, will have a more positive impact. And I know that sounds kind of strange because people are like, well, don't you not want to have debt? Well, having a little bit of credit available and not utilizing it is actually a good thing, because it's showing that you are good with managing your money and not having to dip into that account or that credit card unless you absolutely need to, or you're planning on using it for other types of things. So having that home loan and that credit card on here, just those two things is hurting this account just a tiny bit. But again, if we added like an extra credit card or maybe had like a auto loan on there, that can actually help it out just a little bit on that end. Now, next up is going to be the credit inquiries. This takes about 10% of your overall credit score. Now, I know a lot of times people are worried about wanting to, get another credit card or apply for a loan because they feel it's going to have a huge impact on their actual credit score. As you can see here, it only impacts it about 10%, and typically after you actually go ahead and get that inquiry, once you get that loan, that score will actually eventually come back up, because with the actual credit utilization and then the actual account mix, it is actually overall going to help your credit score, as you can see from all the information that we gathered here. So on this account that we are looking at, this one has 2 inquiries that were going on around February 5th and 6th of 2019. So those 2 inquiries have been added to this. They do get dropped off after about 12 months, as you can see here. So this person is in like right before the excellent, so they're in like a B grade, as you can see here. So typically after these are going to fall off, you're going to have those go back into the excellent. And as I mentioned earlier, applying for a lot of credit all at once is also not really a good thing, because one, it's going to have a lot of inquiries all at once on your account, and then it's also going to, of course, add in a lot more shorter age groups when it comes to your credit age. So doing that all at once is not going to be a good thing, especially because it's also going to be in your inquiry for a while. So with all of that information from this account, this person, as we showed earlier, has a credit score of 711 points. Now, that's a pretty good score. Of course, we always want to be increasing it, because again, as you increase your credit score, you're going to have the better likelihood of getting better interest rates, which will mean you actually pay less on any type of loans that you take out, which is always a good thing, especially if you're going for home loans, car loans, credit cards, all of that stuff. It's going to really benefit you in the long run. But you can't do that if you have no idea where you're standing when it comes to your credit score. Now, here on Credit Sesame, they also have a section where they show my recommendations. So over here, if you go ahead and click on that page, now what it's going to do is it's going to show you how you can actually best improve your payment history, so that way you can actually go ahead and increase your overall credit score. Now, we talked about earlier that this account has 2 things in collections, so it is showing that removing these negative pieces from your actual credit report is going to have a huge impact on your actual credit score. In this section here, it does say to review the negative marks for any errors to find opportunities to increase your score. So if by chance the negative effects on your account, maybe there's a missed payment or maybe there is a collections on here, but it actually isn't yours, you can try to actually fight that by making sure that you announce to them that, hey, this is not actually accurate. And they actually do have companies that you can actually connect with to be able to help you remove things from your actual credit report if it is not actually accurate, and maybe it was put on there by accident. Maybe somebody had a similar name as you, or somebody punched in a number wrong and it went into your account and not somebody else's, because that can have a huge impact, and it does take a little while to remove, but it is well worth it for your long-term financial future to get that that all cleared up. Now, there's a lot of other things that we didn't talk about here on the Credit Sesame website. You can go ahead and check out a lot of great information that they have available for you. Some things are to be actually paid for if they want it to be unlocked, such as additional ID protection or getting credit reports from all three major bureaus. As I mentioned, Credit Sesame is entirely free, but there are some places in the actual website where you can add a little bit more value for you at an additional cost. But overall, for what they give you entirely for free, can really go a long way to help you in your financial future. Now, again, if you want to sign up, check out the link in the show notes down below so you can go ahead and go through the process and get started with Credit Sesame. Now, if you want to learn more when it comes to your credit score, check out my video right over here where I go into even more in-depth information between all the different sectors that have an effect on your credit score. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.